Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Hello.
Morning, Salvador.
How are you
Morning,
today?
Salvador.
¿Cómo estás,
Buenos
David?
días, Salvador.
Buenos días a
Todo,
todos.
todo bien por aquí. Estoy viajando y Bastán nos va a ayudar hoy día también.
¿Te pareces a Moisés?
Porque
Hizo la transmisión en el camión.
así.
Copy,
Moisés, ok.
copy paste.
True, true. I was inspired by Moses.
Yeah.
Brother Moses making his presentation from the truck, so
For the
I
crisis.
yeah. Right time to do right things.
Yep,
Yeah.
time to go.
I already shared the YouTube link in public chat. If anyone wants to share it, please, you can do it. We'll drop them in the chat as well. And there we go. Okay. Debajo, I will return now the hosting to you. It should be with you now. Can you check?
I will check now. Yes, and I have started to record.
Okay. Okay, great.
See you now on YouTube.
Let's wait a few more minutes to participants
we have to wait for Jean-Louis, unless he is using different name. Jean-Louis, are you here? Not yet. Okay, let's wait for him.
We better do.
Okay, he'll be soon with us. So Just give him a few minutes.
Good evening, everyone. Hi.
Good evening. Hello.
Good evening, brothers.
Good evening.
I just wanted to give everyone fair warning. I have, since this is open to the public, I have several of my Masonic mentees on here. So some of them are not Masons yet, and some of them are already Master Masons. So
No problem at all. Anyone can participate. It's not a tiled meeting or anything which is what we do any work in internal. This is a public event. So welcome.
Expect plenty of questions.
Yeah, please, sure. As soon as Jean-Louis joins us and delivers his lecture, then during the Q&A session, of course, you are more than welcome. Anyone is more than welcome to ask any harsh questions, would it be from the members or would it be from non-members, anything. So, welcome. Sorry for bit for the delay. He'll join us soon. So we'll start right now.
Hello, my brothers. It's nice to be here again. Good to see you. I hope this lecture will be a very nice one, like everyone. Thank you a lot, and big hugs from Mexico City.
Greetings to Mexico City, and thank you for nice words.
I think Brother Jean-Louis has joined our chat. Brother Jean-Louis, can you hear? This is Wachtang.
Sorry. I don't know. David is here.
We hear you. Brother David is also here, and I will be helping him today to coordinate and host this event.
Yeah, just let me, Bajo, introduce you to Jean-Louis. Jean-Louis, hello once again.
1 hour late because I did a mistake with the time. Sorry about that.
That's fine. That's fine. And most importantly, I'm right now driving to Tbilisi. I will be with on the meeting just for easier moderation. Vajo will replace me, so Vajo will be all the moderation. So please be acquainted, and I will give all the moderating powers to Vajo. Please take over and kindly introduce Brother Jean-Louis today's topic, and you can launch the lecture.
Thank you, David. Now I will mute all, and we'll start today's meeting. Greetings once again, Kamar Joba, that means hello in Georgian. My name is Wachtang. Welcome to Sapere Aude lecture number 115. Today I will be helping David to host lecture as he is on the road, still traveling back home. And let us wish him safe travel. Meanwhile, I will remind everyone that Sapere Aude is a public activity. We allow male and female Masons and non-Masons. We don't discuss politics, religion, and interjurisdictional issues. Any violator will be removed and banned immediately. Every opinion shared here by speaker, host, or participant is of individual nature, solely owned by the author, and does not represent any official standpoint of any institution, would it be Masonic or non-Masonic, unless author specifically states and emphasizes it. We'll have approximately 1 hour lecture, and then we'll continue with Q&A session. In continuation of the series of public lectures, we have the honor to host Brother Jean-Louis de Biasi, born in southwest of France, to a French mother and an Italian father. He, passionate for ancient Mediterranean traditions, has studied and practiced Eastern techniques and learned the philosophies of Buddhism and Hinduism. He has got a master's degree in philosophy and taught that subject in France for more than 15 years. The thesis was titled Morals and Religion in Work of Nietzsche. He also obtained a degree of Hebrew language. For several years, he has practiced oneirology, and hypnotherapy. He is author of more than 10 books in French. Several of his books are available in Portuguese, Spanish, Dutch, French, and Greek. Jean-Louis' expertise extends to Tantra Yoga, Hatha Yoga, Yoga Nidra, meditation, and creative visualization, having resumed a more intensive and inclusive practice manifested in the practice of the facets of esoteric and traditional Tantra Yoga, including Yoga Nidra, that combines his long practical expertise with his spiritual, religious, and philosophical knowledge. He has been initiated into Freemasonry in 1990, raised to Master Mason in 1994. He has been member of Grand Lodges in Canada, Grand Lodge of FAAM of District of Columbia, and Grand Lodge of the State of Nevada, USA. Currently, he belongs to UGLE, Province of East Lancashire, Lodge number 9659. While living in France and prior to joining American Freemasonry, he was the Grand Officer of Grand Orient de France, having received all the degrees of the Egyptian Freemasonry from 33rd to 95 and other allied degrees. He has also received the 32 degrees of American Scottish Rite in Washington, D.C., and was initiated in Royal Arch in Canada. The title of today's lecture is following: What is Initiatory Order? So, dear brother Jean-Louis, floor is yours. I will unmute you in a second. I have unmuted you. Please.
Thank you. I will be able to share the screen. I have a very short PowerPoint to show and to use. I don't.
Yes, I will make you co-host. One moment.
No problem. Thank you.
Please try now.
Okay. Yes. Okay, I can find it. Okay, you should see it now.
Yes, we see it.
Very good. Still good or not? You can see it?
We see it. It's good.
Okay. Is it big enough for everyone to see it?
I think yes, on my screen it's good, and I see participants are showing thumbs up, so it should be good.
Very good. This time you will not have to read anything on the PowerPoint. It was different last time. The point was just to illustrate a few things I will explain. I chose first to give a short lecture, not 1 hour, but maybe something around 30 minutes, and to open the floor for any discussion based on what I am about to explain. I love discussions and questions, and this is another opportunity to go deeper in some aspects of the presentation. Second, this presentation has been already prepared in the past month on a general purpose. So I will speak about Freemasonry because Freemasonry is an initiatory order, but this is not restricted to Freemasonry. I'm talking here about any kind of initiatory order. So we can learn from everyone, and this is the way we can start. So what is an initiatory order? I will start by a reading, which is coming from a novel written during the 2nd century. This is a book from Apuleius, and in this book, this is Metamorphosis, and Apuleius is maybe the first one to explicitly talk about an initiation and the initiatory process. So here are the words used in this book. And I am sure that anyone who lived this kind of initiation will recognize few things. Then, said Apuleius, my initiator led me to the nearest bath. When I had bathed, according to the custom, he asked favor of the gods and purified me by a ritual cleansing, sprinkling me with water. Then, in the early afternoon, he led me to the shrine again and placed me at the goddess' feet. He gave me secret instructions, too secret for open utterance. All the uninitiated were ordered to depart. I was dressed in a new-made robe of linen, and taking me by the arm, he led me into the sanctuaries in innermost recess. And now, diligent reader, you are no doubt keen to know what was said next and what was done. I tell you if to tell you were allowed. If you were allowed to hear, then you might know, but ears and tongue would sine qua, the latter for its profane indiscretion, the former for their unbridled curiosity. Oh, I shall speak, since you desire to hear may be a matter of deep religious longing, and I would not torment you with further anguish, but I shall speak only of what can be revealed to the minds of uninitiated, without need for subsequent atonement, things which, though you have heard them, you may well not understand. So listen and believe in what is true. I reached the very gates of death and, treading Proserpine's threshold, yet passed through all the elements and returned. I have seen the sun at midnight shining brightly. I have entered the presence of the gods below and the presence of the gods above, and I have paid due reverence before them. And I just read again the first part. I reached the very gates of death and treading Proserpine's threshold, yet passed through all the elements and returned. I have seen the sun at midnight shining brightly. And this is a text written during the 2nd century by Apuleius. So today, I would like to give you a few insights about what I found as an important question. What is an initiatory order? Esoteric organizations often talk about initiation, but rarely in a simple and direct way. This is also true for Freemasonry, which has a lot of difficulty to reconcile the magical or religious appearance of a ritual to a self-declared non-religious ceremony. Of course, talking about initiatory order must begin by a definition of the initiation. This is a vast question, and I will just summarize in a few points. To be simple, I can say that an initiation is a ceremony that allows a candidate to have an inner experience of sacred mysteries. This is not a religious sacrament. No mysterious power of priesthood is involved there. However, these ceremonies can create a modification in the psyche of the candidate, giving him the opportunity to open more widely his understanding of the cosmos. They are composed of rituals which can be either symbolic or theurgic. This gives us two main categories of initiations. And here I gave you two representations. One on the right in black and white is something very, very close to the rituals performed in Freemasonry. This is Mysteries of Mithraism. And the representation is pretty good as on the first slide. And for all Masons or people interested by Freemasonry, you can see here several things. First, someone who is acting as the initiator on the east, the initiate, kneeling here. You cannot see very clearly, but on the right and on the left, on the east side, you have the representation of the moon and the sun. And in some Masonic ritual, this is the case. You have all men, and they are all on two lines on both sides of the temple, which is rectangular. Usually there is an altar in the middle.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yep.
We see only first part, what is initiatory order, and on the left is the picture. Are we still on that slide?
Okay, so I didn't share maybe the correct one. Let me see. Do you see a difference now?
No, still the same. It is either PDF. This is probably PDF file.
Okay, so I have to understand why. So I will stop sharing and share again, just to be sure about that. Sorry about this technical issue. We'll fix that soon.
I'm looking for an onward pass line or an online password.
Online password?
Yes.
You mean,
Tell me
to
if
connect?
this is different right now.
I'm trying to get into Zoom on my computer.
You are already on the Zoom. We see you as participant.
Yeah, but it's on my iPhone.
Okay. I will write you on the chat.
Okay. Thank you.
So you can tell me if you see the black and white slide now?
Yes, we see it.
3. And if I switch, this is a page 2, and you can see it?
Yes, we see the next page.
Okay, so it works now. Okay, sorry about that. So I come back on this representation of the Mitraic tradition. What is interesting on this representation, which is pretty good, is the position of the candidate, position of the master. And as I said, on the east part, you have the representation of Mithra, and on each side, you have the moon and the sun. The initiates are on both sides. The temple is rectangular. The top of the temple is a representation of the starry sky. You have 2 columns, 2 wardens, we cannot see here, and all restricted to men with lights, 2 different lights. This is pretty obvious that the representations of the ceremony in several parts. For example, one part of this ritual, the candidate is blindfolded. Another part, he has the arms with, he cannot move, in fact. So there are a lot of things very, very close to Masonic ritual. And on the left, this is a representation of Greek ritual at the time of Eleusis. So let's come back to that. So these ceremonies can create a modification in the psyche of the candidate, giving him the opportunity to open more widely his understanding of the cosmos. So as I said, they are composed of rituals, which can be either symbolic or theurgic. Now we'll come back on the latest. These give us 2 main categories of initiation. The first category is based on symbols. Freemasonry is a perfect example of a traditional organization using such symbolic initiations. These rituals are built with symbols that are used during the ceremony. These symbols, I mean sounds, lights, perfumes, sacred word, etc., are used to trigger a psychological reaction in the candidate in the hope to obtain a reaction on his subconscious, on his psyche, or even on his soul. In such symbolic rituals, the initiators try to open a deep effect on the candidate by repercussion. So you have two representations on the right here, black and white ceremony using the different elements. This is more European Freemasonry. And on the top, this is North America, and a ritual performed outdoor, but you have still the symbols used during this ceremony of initiation, the lights and so on. On the left, this is an engraving representing the Eleusian initiation with the same, using the same candles, the same kind of deambulation around the temple, and many things we can talk about after. In the second category, the initiatory rituals are sometimes considered as magic or theurgic. Having received proper training, the initiators are able to use their psychic powers and abilities. Acting simultaneously on the visible and invisible planes, the initiator acts deliberately on the unconscious of the candidate to awake his deepest level of consciousness. Eventually, his soul is touched by this magical action. Among this category, theurgy must be differentiated from magic. The Neoplatonic tradition and famous figures such as Iamblichus and Proclus are the purest example of a theurgic path. We'll have to come back on this aspect as one of the closest to spiritual Masonic rituals. And I want to go back on the previous representation. So this is something, this is a colored representation coming from an ancient book. And the representation is supposed to illustrate the invocation by a magician of the call of the guardian angel. And as you can see, there are a lot of evil things around, and there is a huge discussion. This is not an initiation. It could be a kind of auto-initiation, self-initiation, but there is a very long discussion to know if the angel or these kind of demons are just a projection of the psyche of the one doing the ritual, or real things coming from an astral plane, another world, and so on. There is no definitive answer to that. Maybe the only thing is to do the experience, to follow the path and to see what could happen. And on the left, this is a representation of Circe, a magician, and quite the same, even if we have centuries of difference between both. When I am talking about theurgy, and you can see on the left a representation of Hermes, not Hermes, excuse me. Yes, in fact, Hermes, yes. And on the right, Neoplatonician, and you have seated on the right, Julianus, the Emperor Julianus, that has been the last pagan emperor teaching really paganism and Neoplatonism. And in this view, this is the work, theurgy is used to talk about the work of the god and to explain a path using symbols to rise to the divine. And this is a perfect combination between philosophy, symbolic ritual, and critical thinking. So you have this combination of a philosophical, deep philosophical, very advanced philosophical discussion and teaching, plus individual or group rituals based on symbols. And the goal of this one is not exactly to invoke spirits, but to purify the soul, to be able to raise to the divine. And with this movement of ascent, the divine will be attracted. So you see the difference, and I want you to understand the difference between magic and theurgy. In one, you are doing something strange, that is to call spiritual beings, or I don't know. And the other one, you are using philosophy and purification to elevate your soul. And in the same time, with this devotion to attract the light, and meaning through the light, the presence of the divine or the divinity. So this is why the Neoplatonic tradition and Iamblichus Proclus are a very good example of that. The goals of initiation. I am sure that the idea to be part of very old traditions, such as Freemasonry, through its initiations, can be attractive. And this is still, we see that, this is still attractive and exciting. But I think it is worth knowing the goal of all this. There are several goals in what we call initiatory orders. But let's talk here about just the most important. The first, represented on the left, is to help you to awaken your inner abilities that are unused, undeveloped. Theurgic initiations give you the impetus that must be followed by a good training capable of including a real transformation in what you can do. Just to add a note of what I mean by inner abilities. We know what is a kind of inner ability, like memorization, like the ability to focus on something. But you can go further and say that through spiritual practices, such as meditation, such as relaxation, Yoga Nidra is an expression of that, your brain is starting to work differently. So the brain is working differently, and you can reach specific level of consciousness that open your psyche to other realities. And I am not talking here about moving objects without touching them. I'm just talking about an inner understanding. And this is not even something religious. This is different. Meditation, for example, or relaxation is not a religious practice, even if it can be used during religious ceremonies or retreats and so on. But this is something anyone can practice. So this is what I call inner abilities. And you have specific kind of initiations that are focusing on that, helping everyone to develop this aspect. The second goal of an initiation is to teach you a safe and effective method to rise to the divine. And you have two famous representations on the right. This is something essential in an initiatory tradition that I must comment upon. It is clear that everyone can learn alone, read multiple books, learn about initiatory orders, ancient traditions, religions, spiritualities, auto-experiment, etc. So we could say that there is no need to receive an initiation or work in an initiatory order. In fact, we could say there are enough books about Freemasonry that is giving us everything we can learn about. So what the need to be initiated in a lodge, what the need to go to meetings, to have these kind of exciting and boring meetings and so on. We could do that alone. And I did that. I was writing an article for my publisher, And I was thinking about it, saying, can we really know everything about Freemasonry today online? So I Googled like sacred words given to the initiate in Freemasonry to know if there is something online. It took 1, 2, 3 seconds to have everything on the screen, every details, every word, and they were genuine. It was okay. So we could say, if everything is outside, what the need to go in a school? Anyone, as I said, can become a self-taught man. However, not everyone has the ability, the strength, and the desire to achieve anything alone. Many can feel that it is perhaps easier and faster to enroll in a serious group. And for Freemasonry, this is a challenge, because for almost every Mason know that. But as today we can have people who are not Masons yet, Freemasons yet, we have to know something, that Freemasonry is present everywhere in the world, a very ancient and respectable tradition. But in the same time, we are all humans. That means there are groups that are working in a very, very good spirit, and there are other groups in which this is less evident. So we have to judge the school and not the teacher every time. We have to keep that in mind. So it is true that we can learn more efficiently, avoid mistakes, and most of it, benefit from the experience of those who have preceded us. This is a real good help. And maybe, as I said, for Freemasonry, as everything is outside, the only thing that you cannot find on internet is the experience of everyone. And the best thing you can learn is from the experience of each one. So we have also to consider the attitude you must have when you decide to begin a curriculum, a path, because there are several degrees. It is clear that you do not change schools every month or every 3 months. You do not switch from one training to another every time something new comes along. If you want to study, you do not go to one school, then to another, and mix everything. You commit during a specific duration to a practice, to a gradual methods taught. This is exactly the way a serious initiatory order works. In order to obtain good results, we have to follow the lessons and advice of our teachers, masters, with consistency. The third goal of an initiatory order is paramount. You must learn, and it has been like that from the start of what we call initiation in the past, from the first and even maybe before the first century. You must learn what you will find after your death. You have 2 representations on the screen. The third one, the representation on the right is a mosaics coming from Pompeii. And you can find a lot of symbols linked to Freemasonry. And on the left, you have almost the same period. You have a representation of a tomb coming from, Egyptian tomb coming from Alexandria in Egypt. So you must learn what you will find after your death. This idea of death is very important in Hermeticism, theology, Neoplatonism, and Freemasonry. Everyone will die. Quite nobody knows when. It could happen in a few minutes or in several years. We don't know. However, this moment has always been shown in all traditions as the major initiation. This is not an initiation you want to undertake without any preparation. One goal of an initiatory order and the initiation they perform is to prepare you for the final moment. In a tradition working only on the symbolic level, this death will be symbolically staged in the hope to trigger an inner understanding. The goal is to teach you how to stay aware of what is happening when you live this physical life. This is not something you can learn just theoretically. So in very advanced initiatory order, this is what is practiced. This is common to shamanism too. You have to follow a precise training. Religions based on revelation and faith are not based on the same postulates. And even if rituals can sometimes share close roots, their principles and mechanisms are totally different. If you succeed to the theurgic initiatory process, you will be able to keep your memory intact and to choose your next life. So what is implicit here is to, maybe I have to add that to this slide and the previous one, is to understand that this, I am not talking about a religion or faith, but you have to understand that we are considered as creatures having two levels, a visible one and invisible one. The visible one is the body, physical body. The invisible one is the soul, or every aspects of the soul. And the belief in initiatory orders, such as Freemasonry, is that there is a spiritual world. Maybe we came from it and we are coming back to it. This is a kind of path of the return in our real world. So at one point, our soul will leave our physical body and the physical body will vanish. And this moment when the spiritual part of ourself will go on the other side, it will be very traumatic. And what the initiatory orders explains, that we must be trained to cross this threshold as peaceful as possible. Religions are teaching, for example, that we can be escorted by our guardian angel, Virgin Mary, for Christians, many things like that. For Egyptians, this is different. The ritual helps for this transition from a part to the other. And doesn't matter if you believe in reincarnation or not, because the path is the same. You go from the physical life to the spiritual life. So in a theurgic initiatory process, you have to learn how to remain calm and to keep yourself intact. And this is done through focusing and memory, keeping your memory intact to be able to choose, if you believe in reincarnation, your next life. If not, you will be dragged down randomly, losing what you just learned. As you can see, being trained or having experimented even a symbolic time, this death and resurrection is really paramount. It is necessary to acquire both theoretical and practical training. This is what an authentic theurgic initiatory order gives you, and this is also the reason why you have to be careful in choosing one. I give you two other representations. On the right side, you have this 18th century Masonic ritual that is staging this death and resurrection. And on the left side, an Egyptian view of the same. And this is more the resurrection here with the jade. And when you place the jet in a vertical position, that means Osiris is resurrected. And we can find exactly the same in Egyptian Freemasonry. So the Western tradition is strong on this affirmation. We must not move forward and try to die sooner than planned. Suicide is a fundamental mistake. The masters of the Hermetic tradition are all against this idea. To the contrary, it is necessary to enjoy the present, to be prepared for this final initiation. Of course, to succeed in this goal, we should follow the training in a serious initiatory order. And I found it very essential to give a few insight on this aspect too. Now, it is essential to define criteria that help you evaluate the quality of an initiatory order. I will, and in the same time, for anyone who is initiated already, this is a reminder of the mistakes we can avoid. So I will highlight a few of them, and you will be able to use them to select what is the best for you or to keep that in mind. In the Western tradition, such organizations are the result of a clear and continuous lineage. It cannot be created from scratch because of an egocentric will. As in the Eastern spiritual world, a spiritual school is the result of a long line of masters. This awareness of its heritage leads to a duty in regard to the masters who built this tradition. This duty leads to a true humility. Freemasonry is not different in this regard. Another important criterion is to not exalt the ego. Here, Freemasonry finds its biggest challenge. And I will speak more about it in my next lecture. Title is Freemasonry Still Relevant Today? The ego is a real obstacle in a spiritual life. Consequently, the masters and initiators must be serious in their work. They must be able to apply to themselves the rules they preach to others. This is not to say that initiators and masters are perfect, even the Eastern gurus. Everyone is human and nobody is perfect. However, they must maintain these high moral standards as a human ideal. Seriousness is manifested through honesty and humility. This allows us to admit that there are hundreds and hundreds of things we do not know and that we must learn. We must have the humility to recognize that the masters who have preceded us in antiquity, for example, had a huge culture. Whoever we are far from reaching the ideal. Whether masters or students, we should fight the ego and achieve true humility in order to acquire a clear vision of who we really are. I don't think that an initiatory order can work properly if it doesn't have and teach a clear moral code. I will come back another time on this subject, but we have to keep in mind that ethics must be a part of the initiatory training. The work on moral values is essential. And I want to emphasize two things, and you have these representations here of the first book of the Constitution of the Freemasons and a French representation of who we are and the ascent we have to achieve. The two first steps of purification, of an initiatory process are purification, inner and outer purification, and the teaching of these moral standards. There is no need to learn or teach the symbols of the square, compass, the letter G, and so on, if we do not start by this purification of the ego and this understanding of moral standards. This is not something that is given to us by a revelation. This is something we must understand. We must understand the need, and we must understand the real meaning of fraternity or brotherhood that is not limited to the walls of the temple, but must be universal, to create this universal mind in which every human being is considered as a brother and sister. And one of the first points of the initiation is to create this spirit of do not harm. Not because someone asked me to do that, but because I understand that I am part of a fraternity. First, Masonic fraternity that is teaching me this moral standard, and after the human fraternity. And then from this start, we can go further and learn how to die, to be resurrected, and find a spiritual life. So it is also important that all the training in an initiatory order be current progressive. We must be trained at different levels, symbolics, theoretically, and so on. You must be escorted in your journey by someone who already has this experience. So this is more to teach by experience, by humility, than to teach the meaning of a symbol or the meaning of a ritual, or to check if someone has really memorized the ritual. In a real initiatory process, we don't care about the fact that someone is brilliant in his memory. We care about the fact that someone is really living according to the principles of the tradition, the moral principles, and has started this inner purification. Do we need someone who is totally dishonest but can perform a brilliant ritual? Or someone who has no memory but can live according high standards, high moral standards? This is exactly the question of an initiation. What do we need to achieve? We need to achieve this ascent to the light, this ascent to the divine, and this is the goal of the initiation. Everything else are tools, but they are peripheral tools. The essential tool is teach by the example of your living. So in an initiatory order, if an initiatory order is focused on these goals and maintaining a high moral standard, then you will see that doesn't spend its time in divisions, fights, oppositions, and so on. All these aspects are manifestations of the ego and the absence of duty. I'm convinced that in the Western tradition, Hermeticism and theurgy are capable of providing a true initiation. Symbolic initiations used in Freemasonry practice with a spiritual approach can provide also a true initiation. So ritual and moral allow you to progress in a very well-balanced way. I hope you think about these aspects, these criteria, and ask yourself this simple question. Is it better for me to continue alone, or as I don't know when I will die, that I have not been really initiated? Is it better to be initiated, to listen to this call, this inner voice, and benefit from the experience of those who have gone before? I think these questions are essential. So this is this path that Freemasonry is practicing for centuries, hundreds of years. sometimes Freemasonry is very too focused on the appearances, on the symbols, and on a single level of meaning, losing too many times this spiritual aspect I was talking about. So the initiations can help us to go further to the light and to the divine, understanding the meaning of the death and the meaning of the afterlife, maybe sometime doing the experience or being very close to do the experience. But nothing can be achieved if we do not start by the first step, which is learning what is the real obstacle, the ego, recognizing the best help, brotherhood, and experience, humility. And from this start, we can go further and learn the real meanings of symbol and the use of symbols from the inside and from the experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Jean-Louis. I will now take over. I will start with reading a few comments from the chat, and I encourage everyone to push the button to raise the hand so I can see and I can give the floor for the questions. I will read till then I will read one comment from C1. Secrets are such that they can be shouted out from the rooftop, but only those initiated can understand them. This was just a comment, and there is also 2 comments from Hasut Joshi. To read a play or watch a play from the auditorium is very different to being invited to participate in the play. Participating is to feel the energy, to feel the presence of something special. Masonry is similar. You can read everything, but to experience the energy and force, you have to become part of the ritual. So
I feel that, if I may, I feel that very, very true. If the ritual is well done by good people.
True. So we have first hand, Helio Lopez da Costa. I will unmute you and floor is yours, please.
Yes. Good morning. Thank you, Brother de Biasi. Actually, I have a book of yours, which has been autographed to me.
Good.
Thank you. But anyway, another regarding this, I'd just like to quote someone who was not a Freemason per se. Actually, she was a woman. She was a woman, but it encapsulates what it is that you're saying. It's not only applicable to Freemasonry, but for other orders. And that was a quote that says, "The essence of truth cannot be transmitted from mouth to ear, nor can any pen describe it, not even that of the recording angel, unless man finds the answer in the sanctuary of his own heart, in the innermost depths of his divine institutions." And the person who said that was Madame Blavatsky, founder of the Theosophic Society. But there you have it. It's and another thing I would like to say, talk about being the ego, and maybe this is more of a warning or something for those who are maybe today are here but not Freemasons, is that if one wants may become a Freemason and expect what we have been talking about here of all the members of the lodge, and find out that it's not so, that there may be individuals who have a problem with the ego. Information, you also have different positions, and we have medals and certain paraphernalia that people wear that shows your status in the organization. And that can lead to a person thinking of having self-importance. For those who are not Freemason, become Freemasons and find that, they should not be dismayed. We are human, and at least those individuals came into the society, came in to become part of our institution, which means that hopefully they hope to improve themselves and overcome it, but it's difficult. And I think another reason this happens is due to the selection of candidates. It's there, the crux is in there. Who is selected to become part of the organization? And I have belonged to different organizations and been master and have performed initiations, so forth and so on. And what I try to do to subjugate this ego aspect, whenever I had to participate in rituals and initiations as someone who was performing it and bestowing it, is to think, that I ask the cosmic or the powers that be, that I was not doing that. I was only a conduit, to see myself as a conduit of the initiatory chain, in order to realize that it was not my power. I was just being a conduit, using all the paraphernalia, the symbols, and the written rituals that have been composed as a way to hopefully awaken in the person, in the other person, the possibility of seeing more light or receiving more light. So that's just something that I want to say, is that it's eternal problem, the ego. People are not perfect, but if they are working at it, that's what it counts. And thank you for your talk.
Thank you. If I may just comment a few things about
Yes.
what you just said. Everyone who Google Freemasonry will see immediately the kind of medals, the kind of aprons and so on we have from the start to the end. And the older we become, the more we have, the more medals we have. And we can understand the symbolism of that. We can understand why these medals and why these aprons and so on are given, because this is a symbol, because this represents something and so on. But in our mind, in our subconscious, this is not the best way to develop humility. And when I was talking to someone once, and we said, maybe it could be good in Freemasonry, for example, when someone arrived, the apprentice, enter apprentice, to give him all the medals possible, the brightest aprons, everything on it, and each initiation to remove one. Until the end, he has almost nothing. Not started from one, very simple, but going to the simplest one from the, and I think that the effect could be different. And just a word about selection. in Freemasonry, we talk a lot about it, and every initiatory order, how to select someone. And the best answer I found is, I don't know. Because if most of the time we are pushed by selecting someone like us, and I don't know if you try to find the criterion that are the best. This is very difficult. I don't want to give an answer. I just want to highlight this aspect, saying any selection is complicated. And at the end, if I have personally to select someone, I will just try to evaluate if this is an honest guy or woman. That's it, nothing more. Is he or she honest or not? Is he or she willing to improve him or herself? Yes or not, that's it. I don't want to know anything else. Because everything else is superficial, personal, and so on. So this is this difficulty. And to end, I like the idea to be a channel, but in the same time, there are a lot of people who are very pleased to be the best channel possible. And the ego is still there, saying, oh, you see, I reached this level, now I have no ego, I can just channel energies. So the ego is tricky, really.
Thank you, Brother Jean-Louis, for comment. We have several hands, and we have also several questions on the chat room. I'll try to make the list. First, I will give the floor to Janina Pervosvanaya. I will unmute you. Please, floor is yours.
Hello. Hello, Jean-Louis. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for this beautiful talk, very inspiring. And I would like to underline several very important ideas you've given us. The first one, I have already emphasized it in the chart. It's about symbols and about training. I consider this problem of egotistical will, which is not only going for a Freemasonic tradition or a theology tradition, it goes for all the traditions, for many traditions in the world today. And this was a very valid comment that you are about to perform some rituals, some steps in order to purify your ego, for you to be able to listen to not only the laws of temple, but the laws of the universe. And I consider this to be a link to what is about to be the aim of your initiation and what is eventually about to be the aim of initiatory order. That's, I think, is a very, very nice comment, nice ideas of your. Do you agree with me? Do you think that it is a valid conclusion that I came to? Thank you.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. Could I, the question of symbol is fascinating, interesting, and has been always for me irritating in the same time when I am talking about Freemasonry. And I tell you why. I see symbols as Neoplatonicians were seeing that. Symbols are representations of archetypes, what they call ideas. And these Platonic ideas are the expression of an aspect of the divine. So this is an aspect, a representation of an aspect of the divine under the veil of a symbol. So when we are working with symbols, we are working with aspects of the divine world. So this is something that can be sacred, and as such should be approached in the same way. And sometimes the intellect is killing that, is stopping everything. Because if we say, okay, the square, the compass, the eye, the triangle, and so on, are divine are representations of a divine reality, and we find a meaning, a single meaning, we really close this access. We say, okay, I know the square means this, like we translate French to English, English to French, and Spanish, and so on. So we close the opening. At the opposite, if you practice a Jungian path, or if you open your mind differently, you can say, okay, this meaning is the key that opened the door of my understanding of this symbol. But eventually, the symbol is going from the appearance to the divine. This is supposed to do that. That means the symbol is supposed to be a door. This is not supposed to be a door with a tag on it and saying, okay, I know the square means that, but I do not try to open the door. But the symbol must be open as a door to access to another reality. And the combination of every symbols used in this way create the ritual. And if we use symbols in this way and we combine rituals in such way, the ritual will open a huge gate to another reality, which could be spiritual or you name it as you wish according to your own beliefs or tradition. And I saw that there is a question about religion in the chat. We could come back on that when you want.
Yes, thank you. Let's continue step by step with the questions. So I have one question from C1 in the chat room, and he has also raised a hand. I will read the question and give the floor to him. So the question is, brother, as an adept yourself, being a Scottish Rite Mason and also initiated in the Egyptian order, to what extent do you feel the connection to higher realms? I will unmute him, and if he has something to add to the question, he may. I think he has some problem with the connection. He just exited the chat. So can you please answer to this one question?
To this one, yeah. I really, not just Scottish Rite, because I saw also rectified ritual in Europe, which is more Judeo-Christian. Now, the most powerful rituals I saw in or lived in Freemasonry, it was due to the people performing the rituals more than the ritual themselves, really. So this is why I really want to highlight this aspect, that the way to perform a ritual is sometimes more important than the ritual itself. In Freemasonry, I'm not saying that in general in all initiatory tradition. I am just here talking about Masonic rituals. Because if I use Egyptian words, Egyptian symbols in a Masonic way, or in the Scottish Rite, or emulation, as we call in Europe, really, if you perform the ritual in a good way, the impact is you can feel the impact on the candidate, on yourself. The egregore, as you said, or the feeling at large is very important. This is what I feel personally. Someone was trying to ask a question, iPhone 613. So maybe you can.
The next one is Hervé Ponytail. I will unmute him, and then I can. Yes, David.
There is a question also in YouTube. Check it time, please.
Okay, I will check that also.
And put me on the list for questions because I don't have raise hand button. Sorry.
Okay. So, please, Ponytail, floor is yours.
Hello once again, Brother Jean-Louis. It's good to talk to you again. Um, a lot has been cramming into my head, especially on perspective. Earlier, you talked about several times bringing up the midnight sun, which is something that I always think about is the perspective of the participant, whether it's being heliocentric knowledge or terracentric, and where the two can join. And you brought up imagery from the Mithraics too, which is dark and light, and depending upon your perspective, you may be in a place where you observe no darkness. You may be in a place where you have no lightness, and you're bringing that light to somebody that wouldn't normally have it. Again, also that perspective of seeing the night, the sun at midnight, may mean that like in Russia, you'd see the white nights all night. You're Alaska, or you might have been away from Earth, and so you see. So that subject always comes to mind. Like you said, pick your base, or as I used to say as a dancer, a jack of all syllabi, a master of some. By having that base and continuing on it, there's always a new discovery within that base. That doesn't mean you ignore the other knowledge that you get, but it gives you a greater basis by which to view it, some perspective. Where you at that point? How would you look at it otherwise? Sit in the other seat, which I find is very interesting to look at over the past 2 decades. And I'm sure you've got years beyond me, so I'd love to get inside that cranium of yours to get that view. But once again, thank you for a great lecture.
What you just said, I was thinking about the Masonic temple, and I was thinking that Freemasonry did a choice, macrocosm, microcosm, trying to, as the Mitra tradition did in the past, or Egyptian tradition, to consider that the temple is a representation of the universe, of the cosmos, and to say that if you perform a ritual in this sacred space, it will have an impact on your psyche, on your archetypes, and your understanding of the universe will change because of this recreation around you of a symbolic universe. So this is not, of course, the representation of the physical reality, but this is a way that the initiates see of our tradition, see the world. So this is interesting because there is a very clear choice, and the symbols of the temple, the layout of the temple, gives us this explanation and this choice that our masters, past masters, did for us.
So,
yes, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, so I will read next question from the chat room, then I will give floor to David and Tim. A question from the chat from David Felty. People do not always mean the same thing, even when they use the same word. On several occasions, especially early in your lecture, you used the word religion, but I am not sure I understand what you meant by that word. By the way you use the word, I noticed that for you, religion represents something very bad. What is this bad thing that religion represents in your thinking? How is religion different from theurgy, especially when so many religious mystics have said that they practice theurgy? This is search for the worship of God, question mark.
Yeah. When I was using the word religion, yeah, this is a very, very good question and very important one. We could have a speech on this topic. I was not using the theological or etymological meaning of the word, because religare, the fact to be linked to the divine and so on, we can talk about the etymology of the word, we can talk about the meaning of the word, and this is very different. Freemasonry from the start had a very specific vision about that. And sometimes Freemasonry was divided because of that, the way to approach the religious question. So in my talk, and what I am always saying, that we have to establish a very clear distinction between religion, the practice of a religion, and the religious establishment and power and organization, the political religious organization. So there is a huge difference between a religious approach, a practice of a belief, and a centralized or not power, which is trying to control the people and the politics. So this is something totally different. And what Freemasonry is good at is to open a space in which, and it should be the case, every religion is welcome, as long as they are not trying to convert the others or to impose their views on others. So to talk and to compare and to share beliefs, to discuss and so on, Freemasonry is the best place, one of the best places in the world to do that, because the fraternity and the initiations give this wonderful place to open. So when we say Freemasonry must not speak about religion, I think this is totally stupid. Because if we do not speak about what is essential in the world, what do? But to speak about religion in a challenging way, in a way to trying to convert others, to impose our will on others, this is the bad way. So, as we want to speak about it, we call that spirituality, which is almost the same. But Freemasonry, from the start, has been opposed to dogmas, should be opposed to dogmas, to political powers, and so on. So, after that, to make a difference between religion and theology, I cannot go deep on that, but just say that religion is more focused on faith, revelation, and theology is more focused on experience and practice, experiment and practice. They are not opposed, but this is different. Remember the word in the Judeo-Christianity, believe and you will be saved. This is impossible in theology. Practice, experiment, and you will discover other levels of divinity. You will understand more. But because you practice, because you experiment, but not because of your belief. In religion, yes.
Thank you for comment. Next, we have David the team. I will unmute you. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Brother Jean-Louis. Thank you very much. I totally enjoyed your lecture. A key thing that resonated with me was the point, your postulation about the reversal of the ornamentals in initiatory rites. or initiatory orders, where you start out with all the beautiful medals, and as you grow and realize the vanity of those medals, you begin to drop them off. This resonated so perfectly with me. And since there is some degree of a Masonic undertone in our conversation tonight, I think a key element that I think I'm an English Mason, that English Masonry is beginning to lose is this idea of moving away from its esoteric content and focusing more on its rituals and the morality. Now, making reference to Christianity, since I'm a Christian, they say the spirit, that once you rely on the spirit leads you into all truth. Now, if we began to refocus on the esoteric, which then moves the consciousness from the conscious to the unconscious, okay? I believe that this unconscious, this spirit, for lack of a better definition, will help in the, as they say in Masonry, guarding the West Gate. Because when an initiate comes forward and you focus the energies on that initiate to deconstruct his person, okay, significantly, you then begin to realize that you will weed out, without being able to effectively explain how you do it, you will weed out those koans, as they say, those pretenders to Masonry, so that you can then begin to, or the initiatory order, whichever initiatory order we're speaking about here. So you then begin to weed out those people that come in, because when we begin to look at the initiate from the point of view of being like us, then we begin to lose the true essence of the process of the selection, and therefore the impact that is expected at the initiation and going forward from there is also lost, because you get someone who is unable to connect to the essence of the order, and he comes in and then begins to, for lack of a better definition, pollute that order with his material, for lack of a better word, I want to use the word materialism. Okay, the gross materialism. So, and I honestly believe that if more, and this is really why I love Sapare Aude, because the focus is on the esoteric, okay, where we begin to highlight that which is intangible, but significant. You know, and I really want to identify with your teaching, with your lecture today, and definitely I look forward to your next lecture. I honestly do. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And, I guess Jean-Louis does not have any comment on that.
A lot, but I want to a lot, but I want to give the opportunity to everyone to participate.
Yeah. Sure.
And we will meet again in the next lecture. So
sorry for intervening. Let's not let's seize the moment and share your comments. They may disappear. Jean-Louis. Go ahead. Yeah. We have time.
Yeah. That's true. No, when I was listening, David, I was thinking about the difficulty to teach what is esotericism or esoteric aspect of Freemasonry, because this is not just to unveil the other side or the possibility of the other side. For me, I see esotericism as a path by itself. I mean, to allow someone to understand that there is a spiritual path that is not confessional, that is not Christian, Judeo-Christian or pagan or anything, but that is an inner experience possible for every human being in an open-minded group made of brothers or sisters. And if we succeed to create this kind of almost shrine place, sacred place, to allow this experience, we will obtain for me the best of humanity. That means everyone, as today, sharing a common single experience and being able to talk about the most complicated things in the world. But, and I want to add this, but this is not magic. If we do not speak about philosophy, if we do not speak about theology, if we do not speak about all these things, we will achieve almost nothing. We'll just repeat as parrots the ritual, and hopefully sometimes someone will understand something. But we can go faster because we can die anytime. So there is a need to not waste our time, to go fast as possible to achieve that. So, you know, I love symbols, I love alchemy, but I am always saying to alchemists, forget your symbols. If you have something to say it clearly and fast. No time to waste, really. No, just not a comment, but.
Thank you very much. We share a lot together on this thing. We share a lot together. Thank you.
Yes, we also don't have time to spend, and I will read the next question from the YouTube. Tami Orunaboka. Good lecture. There will be too many pictures in the lodge. If nowhere do we keep all these pictures and images in the lodge room during the where do we keep all these pictures and images in the lodge room during initiations? Not very clear, but
I'm not sure to understand which picture also.
Yeah, not very clear question. But
it's always a challenge to ask.
Let's ask.
Right. Yeah.
Let's ask author to rephrase his question or make it more clear. That could help because they're watching on YouTube, and in 20 seconds he or she will put it again differently.
Okay.
Then we can go to the next question from the chat from Halvard Harklau. Thank you for another amazing lecture. Can you say something about the concept of egregores?
I can always say something, but I cannot say definitely something. You know that this is challenging to say something in few words about something complicated. But because we can see the egregore in different ways. So I will just try to define what it is in the concept of initiation. So in this case, I said at one point in the lecture that we suppose that we have two levels, a physical one, a spiritual one, visible and invisible. This is a postulate. I cannot demonstrate you today live my immaterial part. I am using my brain, which is physical, and my voice, which is physical, and you suppose that I have something else. Okay, but let's suppose we have something else, like immaterial. And this immaterial is non-feminine, non-masculine. No male, no female on the spiritual level. which is important for Freemasons to remember sometime. So on the spiritual level, there is a kind of, you could have a kind of union, a spiritual union between all these immaterial souls. So we are in a temple physically. Our souls are supposedly inside. If we are practicing a kind of spiritual process, the souls can unite and create what we can call an egregor. So you can imagine a union of the souls as you can imagine a chain with our hands in the temple. And you know that we can have a chain with our hands without the union of the souls. But it could be best to start by the union of the souls and to represent that by the union of our hands. And the first aspect of the egregor is this one. And if we obtain that, our initiate will feel something different. We'll feel that something is happening without being able to know or to understand what is happening. So this is the first level of an egregor. After, you can extend that to a Masonic organization and saying if the Masonic organization, if anyone in the Masonic organization, even the Grand Officers, are living according to these standards, we will have a more powerful egregor, yes. Is it the case? You decide.
It's okay, thank you.
Thank you for great comment. I have not forgotten about David. So next is David Chichinatze. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Again, Jean-Louis, thank you so much for your time and excellent elaboration on the initiatory order. It has been a huge pleasure. Here is my question. While visiting Paris, I went to there are a lot of stores where you can buy different stuff of the craft on different streets. So in one of the stores, I found very small miniature of the temple, craft temple. So I thought in the beginning it was just a small miniature, nothing else. But I have been explained that actually that is a traveling temple. So a person can actually take this like a travel chess and work out rituals somewhere just alone. You have all the columns, you have all small tiny symbolics there, everything present like it should be in the temple. So to what extent do you think self-initiation can be done, and that is also discussed in your book to some extent, quite interestingly? This is one question. To what extent do you think this self-initiation can happen just alone, without any participation, just absorbing the information intellectually, preparing yourself, contemplating on things, on symbols, and then getting to that point? That's one question. And the second question kind of resonates the previous question regarding the esoterics, egregor, let's say. So, what do you think? What do you think is a supreme being a necessary component during the ritual?
Yeah,
we
first.
will be discussing supreme being if it is essential or not with Brother Tony Harvey in a few weeks. But I would like to know your position on it. Why supreme being? Is it necessary, essential or not? So these two questions, please. Thank you.
Yeah, the first one about self-initiation. In my latest book, I talked about that and giving different techniques and ways to experiment a self-initiation, a self-Masonic initiation. So anyone here can try, even if you have been initiated, and you will see what you feel, because even if this is not a real first self-initiation, it will be a reenactment of what you already received. But I think that self-initiations are possible, but if you have the choice, this is better to have a real initiation. As long as this is well performed. But when we say self-initiation, what that means? That means if I read a ritual, do I have the same experience? Definitively not. Can I have a kind of experience? Yes. Can this experience be very close to the other one, to the real physical one? If you use specific techniques, very close. If you just read the ritual, far from that. And what are these techniques? These techniques are mainly the practice of creative visualization. And if you master and if you are trained in creative visualization, you can be very close to that. I have to explain briefly what is creative visualization. That means when you read, for example, the description of a Masonic temple, you can read the description, but this is from outside. Now you close your eyes and you recreate the temple in your mind. And everyone can know that, they can do that right now. You know the temples, you have been a lot of time inside, so you can close your eyes and you can easily see the east, the position of the officers, the decorum in the temple, you can do that. You can even switch from one temple to the other. And you can, from all the temples you have visited, create your ideal temple. So the perfect one for you inside. And this is creative visualization. And when you have created this temple, inner temple, you remember the ritual, maybe you memorized it. So perform the ritual again in this inner temple as a meditation. And you will be amazed by the impact, the result, the effect of that. And this is a real esoteric practice because you give life to an inner level of consciousness created by the symbols you know already. And if you do not practice that, you are not practicing esotericism, you are just practicing new interpretation of symbols. But the real esotericism is to make the symbols alive in your inner mind. And this is why if you place a self-initiation in this context, you can obtain something. If not, this is just a literal reading of few letters and that's it. But you need to be trained before with this creative visualization. And I find that totally essential to teach that in lodge, to teach that to officers, to masters, to have a workshop and during 1 day or 2 days to train the officers to use this creative visualization. Because if you use for yourself, this is very good. But if you use this creative visualization during rituals, when you perform a ritual in lodge, we talked about the egregor increase because you are doing something so powerful that everyone will feel it. You will really perform an esoteric ritual because you will perform it on a spiritual level, creative visualization, and on a physical level. But you cannot create that from scratch. You you must be trained to that, because there are degrees of, you have to start by, this is a method we have to learn. I have been lucky to learn that a long time in the past and to teach that regularly. But this is, I think, the way to see that. And when you say esoteric egregor and so on, this is the way I can see that. A living esotericism, a living using techniques such as creative visualization. And to end on the Supreme Being, of course, we cannot talk about the Supreme Being in 2 seconds. But do we need, if you ask me the question, you know that I have been initiated in France, and I have been active in the Grand Orient de France, and the Supreme Being is not an obligation. That means you have a lot of people believing in a Supreme Being, but this is not a requirement. And being now in the order of Freemasonry, this is mandatory. And can you imagine someone who is willing to be part of our fraternity, someone who is really honest, someone who is really willing to improve himself? But if you ask about the Supreme Being, he says, I don't know. I am open to it. Do you receive this candidate or not? He didn't say, I believe. He said, I don't know. And if we are honest, all of us, do we really know? Can we demonstrate it? Or is it our real belief? I think this is our real belief. So in this position, I think that a good way is to say, are you open to it? Do you have this open mind that can help you to accept the possible existence of a Supreme Being? If yes, I want to say you are welcome. Because I don't like dogmas imposed on people. I think dogmas are opposed to Freemasonry. But this is my view. I share
Thank
with
you so much. Vaho, can I follow up as a small comment? Just to clarify
Yes,
something.
please.
Jean-Louis, I understand that the requirement and that requirement and human consciousness. I mean, my question was not aimed at defining whether it is a good prerequisite for membership or not. I mean, that's purely politics, and just I want to look at it differently. When you discuss about the egregor, in some interpretations, egregor is just an entity, but is an empty entity, and an entity that kind of is born by kind of synergy of different energies of the members of participating members in the procedure, let's say. So do you think to some extent it is just an idea that is floating on my mind that egregor can be used as for bad things and for good things, or it can be directed towards bad purposes or good purposes? So while you require from a member belief in Supreme Being, which is supposedly, doesn't matter which belief system the member believes in, Supreme Being being a highest moral kind of a true goodness or kindness or love, do you think that as being a prerequisite, this family, the first family, tries to ensure somehow the higher entity, the supreme highest entity that could oversee the intentions of the members while they are creating the smaller entity and egregor. So it's like an overarching kindness that could protect the members from using egregor in bad kind of purposes. Could that be the explanation? If I made myself clear, I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, you have several ways to see the egregor. The first I explain is the creation of these unions between our souls and spirits. And the other one, which is more theological, maybe more magic, seeing that this creation of the egregor can create something that becomes individual. And you can talk after about the egregor of a lodge, and not the people of the lodge, but the lodge as if a lodge has a kind of memory that can survive the members. And from this egregor, which is independent from the members, you can imagine an egregor that is independent from the lodges, and which is the egregor of the Masonic organization or Freemasonry in general. So if we suppose a benevolent egregor, or if we place the egregor in a benevolent way, we can suppose that everyone will benefits from that and will be helped. Is it true or not? We have hundreds of years to see that, if Freemasonry did the good choice or not, if the results are good or not. I think we have to judge on that to see the result.
Well, I understand that outcome-wise, or the results cannot be predicted. And of course, sometimes it cannot even be measured. Sure, there comes short-term bad thing might be good thing in long run. So
maybe.
So we go in philosophy and too many things. But if a member kind of focuses on a supreme being, that supreme being might be preventive measure for at least preventive measure. Doesn't matter what will happen in reality, but in theory, let's say in theory, it could be, because you never, as you said, you can not measure to what extent a member declaring belief in anything believes in reality. It's just
Yes,
you just trust, or you just I mean, there is no.
But remember that if we have to go in this direction, we are almost about to say, to give a definition to the supreme being. And if we give a definition of the supreme being, we are very close to a dogma. That this is the risk of that. And a lot of texts about Masonic texts are talking about the great architect of the universe, trying to not say anything more than that, saying this is this great, and sometimes even saying great architecture of the universe, depending if you are theist or deist. So if you say that a grand organizer, a grand architect, okay, everyone can see if this grand architect is benevolent or not, but if we can avoid to answer, this is good.
Okay, thank you anyway. Yeah, don't want to take any
but
more
last time, remember we talked about the sun, saying at least everyone can accept the idea of light, and that the fact that the light is good for life and for us. And the light in Freemasonry and the Supreme Being, if we mix together, I like the idea.
All right. Thank you. Just a brief comment that there are some private messages to me, and unfortunately, I'm not able to read them. they're too small while I'm driving. So sorry for that, not answering you. Sorry, and thank you.
And I will have maybe 15 minutes more, and after I will have to leave. Sorry.
Okay, I will read one question from the chat, and we have two questions. Two people has raised their hand, and try to answer that if we will have time. Okay, so question from Julian Hefera. Cannot the plant sacrifice or volunteer part of itself to put down another root and thereby move through the new roots of this sacrificed part of itself and further sacrifices it may make of itself?
I am trying to find, this is a question from the chat?
Yes, this was question from the chat. I will write the question once more in the chat at the end.
Very good. Thank you so much. Yeah.
There were hands before.
I have always trouble with the word sacrifice. Either an animal sacrifice or human sacrifice, I don't like it too much. So I think that be careful with the ego is not a sacrifice by itself. This is a specific approach. If we are close to the moral standards taught by Freemasonry, we should not have to sacrifice anything, because we understand that fraternity is the most important thing in the world. And to achieve that, we have to make room for other people. Okay, it could take a long time to go. Sorry, Julien.
Comment is accepted. So next we have Joseph Guidon. I will unmute you. Please, floor is yours.
Yes, Brother Jean-Louis, thank you very much. It was a very enlightening and engaging talk. I have to agree with you that when ritual is done, when Masonic ritual is done well, it's done by people who really put the effort into it and try to connect with the candidates going through the degree. It's more impactful than just somebody who knows everything by rote but doesn't really put anything into it. And I know I was initiated over 26 years ago, and there isn't a week that goes by that I don't remember something of the 3 degrees, especially the first degree for me. There's not a week that goes by that I don't get a picture of a certain moment during the degree. And I know that I've been master 9 times of several lodges. And I know from my own perspective that several times I've been able to connect. And if you want to use the concept of egregore, that I actually connected on a spiritual level with a brother, a newly obligated brother, when that brother is brought to light. And you look at that brother, and that brother looks at you, and at that moment, there is a connection. You know, when you're doing it right, when you're putting everything you have into that work, it does come across. So I have to agree with you. And the concept of sacrifice, I don't think that we sacrifice of ourselves, of our time, of our energy. But other than that, it's not a sacrifice, it's a labor of love for those of us who do it. And I know I have several of my mentees are on this call. Some of them are master masons. Some of them are past masters. Some of them are right worshipfuls. And some of them are just gentlemen who would like to become brothers. And it's never been a sacrifice to me. It's always been something that it gives me something, you know, seeing them progress, seeing them come in and become part of our Masonic egregore gives me something. It gives me energy. It gives me a purpose sometimes, you know. So I really enjoyed this lecture. I've enjoyed a couple of the other lectures that I've attended on Zoom, but this has been, especially to me, it hit the right buttons, and I thank you.
Thank you to you. Yeah, I was thinking on something you just said, what is important for me, and I am sure for most of you. I saw that too, the effect of the initiation on someone who is being initiated. But in the same time, the challenge we have to keep that going, to not let vanish this first effect, this first true experience. Because I know that many of us, after years of attending lodges, not lose the faith, but in some way, this is just a repetition. This is the effect of the initiation vanish, and we have to find the best way possible to maintain this flame, I think.
And I tell my mentees, I tell all of my brothers to travel, to meet other Masons, because Masonry is the plane apart. Well, we're all on a level, but it's the place where we have a safe space to exchange ideas, to exchange knowledge and exchange ideas.
And this is why this is very important, essential to exchange ideas on essential things, essential topics, philosophy, theology, and so on. Yes.
Agreed.
That's why Sapere Aude is advancing this, right? I had to promote a little bit Sapere Aude.
Yes, you are.
Sorry, not being modest about that.
I must say to you that a couple of my mentees have texted me, and this whole thing blew their minds, because I've said to them, Masonry is a universal fraternity. I've traveled and attended lodge in numerous countries on different continents, and this was their first experience. They started looking at where some of the people that were participating today are calling in from Canada, from Europe, from Africa, from England. You know, They're all we're all over
Singapore,
the place.
Australia,
Yeah,
India,
exactly. South
Georgia,
America. Yeah, South America and
yeah.
Central America. I mean,
Yep,
we're
yep,
all
yep.
over the place. And yet we meet on a level plane, and this organization or this group even more so, because it's open for the most part to the public. So where some of our Grand Lodges are not in amity, since we're not in a lodge setting, we can talk. We can talk. We're human
Definitely.
beings.
It's a conference. It's a meeting room somewhere in the virtual world. That's it.
Yeah. But we're human beings, and we can meet as human beings and discuss things
Definitely.
that are pertinent to all of us, because we all are spiritual beings as well as being, physical beings.
I agree. And actually, I started that doing that, meeting our Turkish brothers in person recently. So, okay, now it was a great experience, and I hope to continue on with many of you someday, somehow, somewhere to meet and enjoy physical contacts. But again, this is excellent. Like having today, excellent lecture with a huge experience and exposure from different jurisdictions. And let's exchange. That doesn't change. It doesn't hurt. It enlightens. It enriches our experience.
Exactly.
So
It
why
increases
not?
the egregore.
Exactly. True. That's true. Okay. Let's
Yes, let's continue. Jean-Louis, do you have a few more minutes to answer
Yes.
one last question?
5 minutes.
Okay.
5 minutes.
Yes. So I will ask the next one to be as short as possible, so we can fit with the answer. So, Ponytail, I will unmute you. Please, floor is yours.
Hello, once again. Sorry to speak twice, but you got me peaked again. One of the things that we were talking about before, we got into a joke on here about the franchise agor, or the sub egregore, but that whole thing of having a base. When I was in Guatemala and teaching there, our base was, of course, ballet. I was teaching at the conservatory there. And some of the students saw that in my room, we had a setup with some candles and a picture of a rhinoceros that I had taken when I was 16. And they suddenly shouted, "Ay, diablo!" Right? And I was like, no. And my friend who was in the room, we went with this stoner joke, so to speak, and said, "No, it's the un dia de danza, the great god of dance." And you notice that the sweeping lines of the horns match the lines that you do when you're doing, arabesque and attitude, and when you're pointing your foot. Well, the joke had gone a little too far. About a month later, I go by one of the salons, and one of the students is there chanting, "Shrino, Shrino, Shrino." I said, "Okay, kid, you can stop. I looked at you. You balanced for at least 30 bars of four. You don't need Shrine." I know, no. The depth of belief that came at that point was like, one has to be responsible. Otherwise, you end up with Jonestown. Because if I was a malevolent person and said, "You need to believe in Drino and let me protect my empire as everybody gets in here," it might be a bunch of, more dead kids in Guatemala. But
about 2 minutes.
they all went on. They all went on to do some really good things, and it was at that point that I said, "You need to sail along on your own." It was within you the whole time. We use certain symbols and pictures and everything to get you to that point so that you didn't have to struggle with, oh, how do I balance? Simple, you know. Thanks again.
Yes, thank you. Very good story. Yes.
Brother Jean-Louis, I guess we are already short in time with you. So if you have any final remark, I just want to thank you once again for this enlightening lecture.
Hello.
Please.
Hello.
Yes, someone is. Let's.
iPhone, yes, please. We see you.
Yes, I'm looking for the password to get to the online presentations. I got into it, but it asked for a password.
Yeah, I wrote the password in the chat, so I will write it again. So please look at it.
Well, I looked for it. I had no idea what you were writing.
This word is the password. I just wrote in the chat.
Okay, I'll go back then.
Can I intervene, Bajo, just 1 second?
Yes.
Before closing the session? Can you have you been receiving the emails, invitation letters, sir? iPhone 61, whatever, 32.
Yes.
Have you? Okay, you will find all the details, connecting details in that letter, in that PDF. But
Okay,
that
fine.
PDF changes for every lecture for security reasons.
Okay,
So,
thank you very much.
You should get look for the present one. Okay, sorry.
Okay, thank you very much. I really enjoyed your presentation. It was very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you to all. Yeah, my my last remark for today will be thank you all to be there today and this morning or night or evening. It's always a pleasure. I will attend to other lectures, of course. I like this spirit. And to go in the direction of David, when I was a young Freemason in France and internet just appeared, I was the creator of the first French magazine called Spread the Word. If I translate in English, in French, this is La Parole Circule. And the point was to go through every lodges, every organization to share our our articles and research and so on. And as it was the start of internet, none of Masonic organizations at this time had any websites, and they were yelling about this initiative, saying that it was not a good way to share ideas with other Masons everywhere. And I saw at this time internet as the most efficient way. Everything like Zoom didn't exist at this time. It was just a small magazine I was doing with articles received by other brothers and sisters and resending by email. So today, to see what we can do, speak all over the world like that, this is brilliant. I was dreaming about that at the start of internet when I was doing the first French internet magazine, Masonic magazine. So this is brilliant to see that and to be part of it. Seeing you on the screen, maybe meeting you in person in a lodge, it was amazing. David, perfect. And everyone who participates, excellent. So have a very good day, everyone.
Jean-Louis, I did not know that you were the one who initiated La Parole Circule.
Yeah, I created
because I was part of it. I was receiving it, and I still have today numerous emails from La Parole Circule. You had it first degree, second degree, third degree. So I didn't know it was you. So thank you very much, because I still have.
On my website, you will see the story of it with the dates and so on.
Okay. Yes, thank you.
I stopped
Great.
when I moved in Canada after, because internet was well working.
Okay.
Good. Sapere Aude connects people around the world.
Yes. Thank you again to everyone, and happy to see you again soon.
Thank you. Have a good day. I
Have a
will
good day.
continue. I will continue with the closing the Q&A session. Once again, I will remind everyone that we had Saperiaude lecture 115. Today is 22nd November 2020. We had today Brother Jean-Louis, and title of the lecture that he delivered was "What is Initiatory Order?" I want to thank all participants and wish health and safety, and we'll say goodbye in English and Nahuamdis in Georgian. However, we can still continue if anyone wants to stay in the chat. We'll just close the official meeting and we can continue in the chat without moderation. So I have stopped the recording. I'll save the video file and we can continue with the chat. If anyone wishes, they can have the words. This part is non-moderated anymore.
Have you got another 2 hours?
Oh, if you let Ponytail speak, you're going to need another 2 hours.
As long as you wish.
One of the other things that I noticed was he had talked about having humility, and I love the idea of the backwards rewards. I would love to see that enacted at least somewhere, at least once. But I found it interesting that there was an order of the humiliati, maybe not quite the same thing, but the women's branch of it was something that St. Francis of Assisi's mother apparently belonged to, and it seemed to guide his way of life after having been a soldier, you know, in North Africa to come back and, you know, work with the poor, work with animals and so on. And the development of him as brother's son, counterpart to Sister Moon, I've always found fascinating. I didn't know if anybody here knew more about that relationship.
You caught me flat-footed, Robert.
I did put the brief background that's in the chat. There's a brief background from Wiki.
I haven't heard about that order actually. Which country was it, Robert?
It started out, it was a combination, it was the Lombardy region, and it was a combination of Italy and France, and thrived for quite some time. The female branch kind of escaped any kind of papal bulls or anything like that. At the time, the male branch, they were kind of, you know, viewed as heretics for obvious reasons, you know, just like Cathars were and so on. I've always found that period kind of fascinating, in as much there were many different orders that we don't hear a lot about in, you know, today, and just the very, because everybody's going, oh, are you part of the Illuminati? And I go, well, more like the Humiliati. And I didn't even know when I joked that there was a Humiliati.
So there were some smart guys who already used that term to name the order.
Nothing new under the sun. Yuck, yuck.
Yeah.
Well, how about this, Brother David? How about we ask Right Worshipful Ponytail to do a talk sometime in the future. Give him a little while to put something together.
Well, that hole's too deep for me.
That's the only way to shut him up. Only way to shut him up is ask him to do a presentation.
That is not our goal to shut him up or anyone. So, so we don't give him the floor then. I wondered if anyone, I mean, I'm pretty sure many of you heard about this French guy. I just forgot the name with spirituality books. It was like Book of Spirituality. He wrote like several of them from 19th century, if I'm not wrong. I just forgot the name. It was floating on my head. He would sit down with people and he would ask for spirits to talk to him, and he even gave the guidance in that book how to do it, stuff like that. Just need to name. If I was just wondering if anyhow that guy had any uh, part in the crafting in France, if anyone knows. But unfortunately, I just don't have that name with me at the moment. Is it Carl? Sorry, just save it. Withdrawing my comment.
I'm just gonna ask Ponytail a question. Do you remember the name of the guy that almost got hung in when he confessed to to a bunch of people that he had been scamming the Catholic Church about the information?
Leo Taxel.
Leo Taxel.
Is that the person you're talking about, David?
No, not at all, not at all. This guy was actually very popular in 18th century or 19th century. Um, I just, I just lost his name. He's Parisian. He was quite popular then in Spain. Book of Spirituality. I guess that's the name of the book. But he had like several books written. I will remind it, and maybe next time I'll bring it up. No, Leo Taxel was quite different. He wrote about the Christianity, ridiculous things. Then he wrote about the craft, ridiculous things. Well, he needed to survive, so he was quite well paid on both sides.
Yeah,
as I understand it, at least.
Well, I have to tell you, this was, and I've enjoyed several of the lectures. I mean, I've enjoyed all of them, but several of them in the past couple of months were lectures that were really of interest to me. But this one today was, it went above and beyond. I have to thank you and the entire group for a very, it was engaging, it was enlightening, informative, and enjoyable.
Glad to hear that.
David, was the person you were talking about Alan Kardec?
Yes, exactly. Alan. Yeah.
Yes. And he was, that was the nom de plume. And he was the author of Hippolyte Léon Denisard Rivaye. I'm sorry, I'm trashing the French, but
yes, that's him. I just wondered if he had anything to do with the craft. I watched the recently movie about him, and it was fascinating. I just loved it. So I just went digging into his history, but I couldn't find any connection. Just I wondered if there was any overlapping. Was there anything what he was practicing or what he wrote about. Actually, he was very skeptic about what then he became the essence of his life, I understand. So I wondered if there was anything that somehow, somewhere, any family of the craft was connected to it, or whether he ever presented himself to the craft or the officers or anyone. Just wondered if there is any connection link between Alan and the craft, the Brotherhood in France.
Does not appear so in the brief bio in
Yeah.
Wiki.
Yeah, that was that I wanted to ask to Jean-Louis, but next time. Thanks all for finding the name. It was floating, but I lost him. Alan.
Yeah, I kind of specialize in taking vagaries and putting them together for a search.
Great.
I just wanted to make a comment. I'm a candidate for a Royal Guard Daystar, and it's pretty cool to have access to these lectures. I'm actually appreciative that this is open to the public, and I would like to have access to more of these. And just as a candidate, just to have, I guess, a connection to different view all around the world, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to have that, you know. I never would have thought I would be talking to people from Canada, France, I'd be learning from somebody from France, you know. It's pretty cool to have that.
Great that you enjoyed it. So greetings from Georgia, and hope one day there'll be fraternal greetings. You're from Georgia. You said you were a candidate, right?
Yes, sir. Really appreciate like the whole presentation. I learned a lot. It was a lot to take in.
Enjoy them. There are many of them out there on YouTube, so it'll give you a lot of additional understanding of the Brotherhood is all about. Well, at least it's public, and not only public, I think. Well, it gives you quite a good understanding of many things.
Yeah, thank you.
Enjoy it. Okay, bros. I need to log off my my notebook has been dying, so I need to start converting it on my side. But Vajo is the host, and if the room still needs to be kept open, please confirm, and it is unlimited account. Otherwise, we can enjoy our Sunday, rest of the Sunday in America still.
Safe travels to Tbilisi.
Thank you.
Yes, safe journey, David.
See you on Monday. We'll have your lecture coming for tomorrow, same time. Thank you, David. Thank you. And soon you will be getting, in an hour or so, you will be getting all the connecting details. By the way, if anyone is not on the mailing list, I see new participants are around. So please leave your contact details, your name, your email, your WhatsApp or Telegram numbers, and we will add you to the groups and the mailing list. So you will be getting all the details directly, and anytime you will wish or you will desire, you can join us on any of these meetings and discussions. So just leave the messages in the public chat or private for that matter.
I will leave a chat room open so you can continue if you wish, and I will come back to see again in half an hour and an hour. So chat room is still open.
Come back to check to make sure we haven't trashed the furniture.
Brother Javad just lost his brother, and many of you know him. He's from Turkey, GL of Turkey. Also, just to remember, and you may want to send him
Who was that?
kind words. Javad
Oh,
Gurel
wow.
has lost his brother just few hours ago. I mean, I guess late yesterday. So if you want, he's on Facebook. And he's also in the chat in the WhatsApp group and Telegram group. So you may want to share your feelings. I don't know, just to let you know.
Robert, if you can get that information, we'll send condolences.
I'll look it up.
All right. So see you tomorrow, and I will have to log off eventually because my battery is gone. Can charge it in the car. So see you on Monday. Bye bye, everyone, and thank you for a very interesting participation. And Vajo, thank you so much once again, and for all your support all the time.
No
Don't be
problem.
hurry.
See.
Drive normally.
Good night, brethren.
Thank you, Plowman.
Drive carefully.
Thank you, David. We'll be seeing you tomorrow.
Okay.
Bye bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye, David.
Vajo, before I log off, if anyone, please save the chat as well after you start converting. So if there is any contacts, we can get it from there, because after this, I won't be able to recover the future kind of messages.
Yeah, I will save it.
Okay, thank you.
Hey Joe, I put up the large links. Good night.
Okay, good night, everybody.